Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Jenny Smith, and I'll be hosting this session. Hopefully, the music will stop in a second. Fantastic. So, hi, everybody, and welcome to the Taking the Fight to Reform campaign launch. I'm Jenny Smith, and I'll be hosting this session on behalf of Greens Organise and all the wonderful, hardworking activists who have made this possible. So, first of all, I just want to say thanks for joining us tonight. Your presence is especially appreciated, what with it being the first day of sun that we've all seen in what feels like 100 years. So, not to worry, we're going to absolutely rocket launch this campaign and have everyone at the pub or in the park by 7. But before that, find out what we've been up to and how you can get involved. So, by this point, some of you know Greens organise intimately. But for those of us who don't, and for those of you who are just joining the excitement, I'll explain a little bit about who we are, where we've come from, and what it is that we're trying to achieve here. Greens Organise launched at the Green Party conference in Manchester with an open letter, a really bold and brave message that heard the public's demands for real grassroots change. The Green Party are about people-centred politics, policies and ideas from people for the people. And that's really what we're going to be championing here. It's a people-powered movement. And as you can see, here is just a little segment of the power behind Greens Organise. Over the last few months, our working groups have been working hard. And in the background, they've created a strong foundation for change. Now we have the building blocks for a democratic internal structure. We've got the start of what is an accessible, plain English political education and resource library. And I'm sure you've all seen us popping up on socials and across the different media channels. To everyone that's given us a shout out so far, your support has facilitated the rapid growth of this movement, and we appreciate you and we hear you. So from all of this activity that's been going on in the background, what we've been able to do is build our first big campaign. And get ready, everybody, because we're taking the fight to reform. Reform now has over 200,000 members, and that's growing. And in the last months, we've seen close to 30 councillors defect to Reform from the Conservatives and the Lib Dems. However much we don't want to believe it, it's happening. People across the country are feeling let down by the two main parties. At the last election, people voted for change, or so they thought. And now Labour are in power and they're bringing more of the same. Instead of supporting the communities that they claim to represent, instead of changing lives and protecting futures, they're changing absolutely nothing and they're protecting billionaires. Those who are the most vulnerable in our society continue to be the target and they're victims of political choice. The local elections are nearing, and for places that have managed to cling on to their right to vote for their local representatives within Labour's catastrophic reorganisation, the elections are hugely important. Greens are working hard to make sure that everywhere we have elections, we have a Green candidate to vote for. Greens Organise want to help get Greens elected, especially in areas that Reform are targeting. So what do we need to do? Get people to these places. Support action days across the country. If your elections have been cancelled, then lend your energy to a neighbour. Get the message to the people. We want everyone to know more about our people-centred policies, how they make life fairer and better for everyday working people, and how we represent the communities that we support. We want to grow the movement and connect the left. There's more of us than we know. When we strip it back, most people just want food on the table, heat in the winter, and a future for their children. So where are we going to be doing all of this? The first place is Dartford North East with Laura Eady as part of the Kent County elections. The next place is Sevenoaks Rural North East with Laura Manston. And finally, Shirland and Wingerford South with Frank Adlington Stringer. These are just three of the dedicated Green candidates who are putting their communities at the centre of their politics. Anyway, that's enough from me. And now we can get to the good bit. Our first speaker is someone lots of you will recognise, a local councillor in Leeds, a pillar of his community and a Green activist who's been taking the fight to the far right in the council chambers and on the streets of Gipton and Hare Hills. Cllr Mothin Ali, thanks for joining us this evening, and I'll hand over to you.
Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. I do apologise in advance. I'm not going to be on phone tonight. I just got out of hospital yesterday. So, but one of the things that I didn't want to miss the opportunity to sort of address was the rise of reform and how, as the Greens, we have to provide a real alternative. We have to provide that credible alternative. We have to give people an option. And if I talk a little bit about my campaign in Gipton and Hare Hills, now for a long time, that ward has just been Labour dominated, so much so that people were just fed up. They wouldn't even come out to vote. You'd get the same people who were always voting, and they were the Labour hardcore. And one thing that we noticed when we went out and knocked on people's doors and engaged with people is the first thing they said to us when they saw us is, "You're the first time anyone's knocked on our door. We've lived here 30 years, no one's knocked on our door." And that's the thing that we know where areas are dominated by a single party, that they're always going to be taken for granted. And when people feel like they're taken for granted, they're gonna be reaching out, and they're gonna be just they're gonna be frustrated, so they're gonna just lash out at anything, and that's where reform comes in. Reform has tied in or tapped in to that frustration that people are feeling. People are struggling because of the rise of the cost of living. People are struggling because of lack of opportunities. So if groups like Reform can point at minorities and can point at refugees and point at a certain group of people and say, there's the bad guys, there's the people that are destroying everything for you or taking away your opportunities, people are going to look for simplistic answers. And this is where we've got to really offer a real alternative and say, okay, we know why the economic model isn't working. The economic model isn't working for the vast majority of us because the society and the economic system is built to benefit the billionaires. You know, capitalism ultimately leads to monopoly, and monopoly is the concentration of wealth in the hands of a very few, and that's what we see. That's where the likes of Musk and all of these other billionaires, Bezos and the Facebook guy, we've moved away from traditional industry to now everything being concentrated on online, where you have these capitalists that would have been historically dominated in factories and dominated in ordinary working class areas or industries, heavy industry. Now they're dominated in the cyberspace, and they're taking on this cyber capital. So the structure of the economy might have moved, but the reality of the economy hasn't really moved. It's still that same capitalist. It's still that same rewarding those who are super rich, and that's why we're hearing that the stock markets are losing value recently. How many of you have actually felt anything to do with, you know, the stock markets have gone down, share prices have gone down? Who's really been impacted? Not, I haven't. I still have to go to work. I still have to try and figure out a way of putting food on my family's table. Yeah, we still the ones who will benefit and be impacted the most are the ones with the most. And that's what we've got to offer. We've got to offer a real credible alternative. We've got to go out and make sure people know that that there is someone else out there. And that's what we did in Gipton and Hare Hills. We made sure that people who weren't interested in politics, yeah, but they were interested in issues that affected them. The local schools are closing, the local children's centres not being looked after. So we tapped into that and we made sure we campaigned heavily on those kind of issues because all of that matters. Every single thing matters. And that's how we broke through because we gave people saw uh, the Greens as people who actually cared. You know, we knocked on people's doors the first time. They said, "Go away. We're not interested in politics." We knocked again, and they said, "Why are you still knocking on my door? I told you, don't come back." I said, "All right, no problem." And then I knocked again, and they're like, "Can you just leave me alone? You'll get my vote. Just leave me alone." So we did lots of that sort of thing. We just made sure that people knew that we cared enough to go back over and over and over again and made sure that we listened. You know, I'd stand on the doorstep with some people for half an hour at times because they matter. Though the people deserve to be heard. And this is why I'm frustrated when I see in certain areas where um, we've got green councillors, but we're not doing enough to benefit people. Instead, we've got to be the people who really champion people, not just we've got to go beyond that party politics. We've got to go beyond holding a party line and just towing that. We've got to go beyond single issues. Yes, the Green Party originated in having a lot of grounding in climate activism. But we can't just have climate activism when we don't have social justice, when we don't have economic equality, when we don't have equity in our societies, when we don't have racial justice, when we don't have a people-led movement and we don't represent people, then we're not really going to benefit the climate.
That's brilliant. If you want to finish off, Martin, then you're always welcome to speak. And I mean, you said you won't be on your best form, but I don't think anyone on this call would have noticed. But we hope that you feel better. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us this evening, especially when you've been ill. We really appreciate you prioritizing this
Not a problem.
conversation.
Not a problem.
What Martin is
Um,
saying there is absolutely right. We've got to be community champions and we've got to go one step further. Um, and that's hopefully what some of the candidates are doing, and what a lot of our green councillors are doing across the country already. Um, but there's always more that we can do as Greens. And as Martin said, there's no environmental justice without social and racial justice. So bringing all of those things together for our communities is absolutely vital. Our next speaker, who, if you're already in Greens Organise, I'm sure you already know, he's been a real driving force behind this campaign. Steve Jackson has given the time and energy into making this happen alongside a group of amazing activists. And Steve is here to bring a little bit of hype around the launch video. So, Steve, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for that, Jenny. That was really nice. I continue to be inspired and motivated by so many people who are giving their time and energy towards Greens Organised. And specifically this campaign. So over the last few months, when we've been setting up this campaign, driving it forwards to this point, I've had lots of conversations with people inside and outside of the Green Party all across the country. And sometimes people ask us why we're focusing on reform. You're just adding fuel to the fire. You're just giving them more of a platform. You're just giving them a spotlight. We need to define ourselves, etc. And I understand where people are coming from when they say that, but I've got two responses. One, the case that Al could deliver much better than me with stats and graphs, but reform are the dominant political force in UK politics right now. They're driving our discourse and they're driving our discourse to a divisive, hate-filled and lie-filled place. The Tories and Labour are just trying to copy them, trying to punch down to sway those reform voters. And the impact of reform and the wider far-right movement that they're part of, we're really seeing it like on the streets in our communities, right? That's the first thing I say. The second thing I say about why I focus on reform is because something that people are sometimes missing is that right now, this is a political opportunity, okay? The two-party system has collapsed. The duopoly has collapsed. People are sick of Labour. People are sick of the Tories. And this doesn't happen. For people in the Green Party, I point out that this hasn't happened in the entire history that the Green Party of England and Wales has existed. And people outside of the Green Party, I say, this is a political opportunity like no other right now. That opportunity that I mentioned, Farage and his billionaire backers and his corporate mates and the mob around him, they've identified this opportunity and they've stepped up into this opportunity, right? They've stepped up into this void that Mothin was talking about. And we need to recognize that, yeah, a lot of those reform voters, we've got nothing in common with them. We don't want to appeal to their values and their politics. But a lot of them are doing that because, like us, they're angry, right? Angry at the status quo, angry at empty suits shuffling deck chairs on the Titanic, angry at establishment politicians who don't give a hoot about them, and angry at them being blamed for the problems in our society, disabled people being blamed, immigrants being blamed, everyone being blamed, oh, it's the other guy. And we're angry at those things as well, right? Some stats that I come back to. YouGov polled 4,000 reform voters, and 75% of them believe that big business takes advantage of people in society. 73% of those reform voters that were polled believe that working people don't get a fair share of societal resources. 71% of those reform voters agree with me that energy, rail, water, and other utilities should be brought into public hands. People are voting for reform because there's a vacuum, and opportunistic so-and-sos have filled that vacuum. But what that tells us is that the country, tens of millions of voters, are crying out for an alternative, right? Crying out for an alternative that speaks to that anger that we all feel and doesn't do it in a way that divides society, doesn't do it in a way that punches down, but does it in a way that points blame exactly where we know it needs to be. The millionaires, the billionaires, the establishment people running our society to line their own pockets. And at Greens Organise, we've got a vision for a Green Party that can step into that void. Not everyone in the school is going to be in the Green Party, and that's all right. Because what we need is a political movement. Maybe it's one vehicle, maybe it's multiple vehicles. It doesn't matter if we agree on the vehicle at this point in time. But what matters is the vision. And Greens Organise, we've got that vision. And we are not just about words, we're about action. I'm actually going to ask you to take a bit of an action with me now as I tee up our launch video. So we put together a launch video for this campaign that I and Jenny actually haven't seen the final edit of it, so I'm pretty excited for that. But the action I want you to take with me right now is everyone get out your phone, and I'm going to speak slowly and leave those silences hanging so that you all do it. Get out your phone, open a tab on your laptop if you need to, don't leave this call. Please don't leave the call. Get out your phone, go to whatever social media platform you use most. All right. Maybe you're opening 2 tabs. That's absolutely fine. And then go to Greens Organise socials. We're on every platform at Greens Organise. Go there. And in a moment, I'm going to ask you to take action with me because we have got a video launch and a fundraiser. And after you've watched this video, we're going to tell you all about where that money's going and our ground plans and our air plans. We're going to tell you all about that. But right now, I want you to take action with me because we want everyone to share that video after we've watched it. And I think I'm certainly expecting to feel something when we're watching it.
I love my community.
It's not perfect, far from it.
But it's mine, it's ours.
Sometimes, though, it feels the decisions affecting our lives are made a million miles away.
The council say it's not their fault.
The government say there's nothing they can do.
Who is actually running things?
I think I'm starting to realise that there's a system.
And we're a part of it.
But it's not run for us.
See that care home down the road?
Some investment companies making money from that.
Someone is choosing to pay the people that work there.
The people that look after my mum are on £12 an hour. Nobody even knows who they are.
The bus services have been cut round here.
And the tickets have gone up by 50%.
And that money is on its way to a private equity company in the Cayman Islands.
Why would they care about the cost of my commute?
Nigel and co keep telling us that it's immigrants that are to blame for what's wrong with this country.
But it's not immigrants buying up our care homes.
Privatising our schools or hiking up our energy bill.
The real threat to our way of lives is not arriving by small boats.
It's flying overhead in private jets.
We're on the bottom rung, feeding their bottom line.
But what they don't know is we're fighting back.
We're building our own thing here on the ground.
Establishment politicians and billionaires have no idea what the community can do when we come together.
We want our buses and our libraries,
swimming pools and schools restored.
We want them back in our hands.
When I was growing up, there was a real sense of possibility. We want that back too.
But to get that, we need to vote for something new.
Labour and Tories are the ones who got us into this mess, and they're not the ones who are going to get us out.
We need to take things into our own hands.
Politics that put our communities first.
But real hope and real change does not trickle down from the top. It rises up.
Our community's rising up.
What about yours?
Oh, I hope that you've all got the chills and the tingles like I have. Okay, go to your socials. Steve told you already. Like, share, comment, tell your friends. It's really so much hard work has gone into that. So many wonderful people have put their energy into it, and from it comes even more beautiful energy, inspiring conversations. So have a look, tell your friends, share it where you can. We really appreciate it. I'm going to hand over to our final speaker now. So we're going to be hearing from one of the candidates that the campaign aims to support, Frank Adlington Stringer. He was the East Midlands mayoral candidate in 2024 and managed to beat out Reform to third place in a region where at the time they had their only MP, Lee Anderson. Boo. He's already working hard as a North East Derbyshire District Councillor. In the upcoming elections, he's the candidate for Derbyshire County Council seat, Sheerland and Wingerworth. And honestly, I've got to say, if you love a cheeky takedown, I highly recommend following on social media. Frank, thanks for being a part of it all and joining us this evening. I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, everyone who's organised this. What a great video that just was. I absolutely love that. That's given me the energy, the passion, the excitement needed, I think, to go on and take this fight to reform. And I hope others are feeling the same. And you're absolutely right. Reform UK first entered Parliament via my region, the East Midlands, and with Lee Anderson of all people. And that was really heartbreaking, soul destroying. That was where this kind of all began for them. And we've now seen this journey kind of get worse and worse and worse. The greatest quantity of Reform councillors, and I'm not sure what you call a group of Reform councillors. Maybe we should come up with something like a gaggle of geese. But they all sat in Derby City, where I grew up, where my dad was from. And I was faced with a region that looked really quite bleak. It was being overtaken by the far right. But that mayoral election, the East Midlands mayoral election last year, presented a real opportunity to send a message. And my main objective in that election was that we were going to beat Reform in their strongest region. And we did just that. We raised over £13,000. We delivered 35,000 leaflets, and we launched a killer social media campaign. And I'm so proud of what we did. And we just proved that Greens can win. We didn't win the election, but we set out what we wanted to achieve, and we broke records. We made history, and that was just absolutely phenomenal and great to be a part of. And I'm so excited right now to see what Greens Organise are doing, see what other people are doing. A rabble of reforms, yes, I like that. And and to really feel that sense of energy coming back our way, because it has to, it needs to. And so the general election was a momentous time for our party, but I felt that the rise of the far right really captured the national narrative, and we have to do something about that, and we cannot let the same happen again. So now in Derbyshire, Reform is projected to take control of the council, of Derbyshire County Council, where they currently have no councillors whatsoever. They're going to flood the council chamber with inexperienced agitators that are there to cause no good whatsoever. And this is so dangerous, given that the Conservative controlled council has continued austerity for us here in Derbyshire. There is a £19 million budget black hole, and that is being currently resolved by slashing £1 million in grants to community organisations, reducing library hours by 10% across the county, and actually closing care homes. Already 7 care homes have been closed and sold off to private firms. That's their solution to this. And so when Reform do take over, if that's what happens, those cuts will be made more extreme, and this will get even worse. So I'm going up against the leader of the county council, the Conservative, to send a really strong message that business as usual is not good enough. And hopefully by doing that, by having such a momentous win, we can hold some of that narrative. And if Reform are in there in a large number of councillors, we can have a strong voice up against them. We've already got one Green in the county council, and hopefully we'll have a strong group of us that are able to hold Reform to account. So we're going to build on that strong second place that we got last time. But there's a real concern, and I have a concern that Reform are mobilising a voter base which we haven't seen before, that people are coming out and voting that don't normally vote, that politics has just been turned on its head. And we're finding this when we're door knocking, that we're doing really, really well, but where is Reform's vote going to come from? What's the national picture going to look like? And so more than ever, we need solidarity. We need boots on the ground like never before. We need hope. And together we can deliver a better kind of politics, but it will take bravery and passion and a level of commitment like we have not seen before in the Greens. And we must give everything to restore that hope, not just to ourselves, but to our country. So thank you all for being here tonight and being part of that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Frank. Fantastic words as always. Yeah, if anyone hasn't had the treat of listening to Frank speak before, it's always a treat. And it's really nice getting to know Frank a bit, as well as we've got apologies from our other 2 target candidates, Laura and Laura. But that leads me on to talking about how you can get involved and what we're doing. Okay, so we've got these 3 incredible target candidates in absolute key Reform versus Greens battlegrounds, and we need to win their elections. We're going to put boots on the ground. We're going to hopefully channel people there every weekend between now and May 1st. But we've also got our big Greens organised action days. On the 12th of April, we are going to be sending people from major cities nearby in the Midlands and in the Southeast to knock on doors. Maybe we'll leaflet the whole division on that day, the 12th of April. 12th of April, 12th of April, 12th of April, right? I'm going to keep saying it because I want you all to save the date. And if you're up for coming along, we've got forms on our website. Go to greensorganised.uk. Everything you need is on there, greensorganised.uk. We need to get as many boots on the ground as possible in those key locations between now and the 1st of May, especially 12th of April, 12th of April, 12th of April. You're all going to be hearing that in your sleep tonight. But also beyond that, a lot of what we're doing isn't just focused on those 3 candidates, right? Greens Organised is new. We've barely existed for 6 months. This is our first fundraiser. We've not got any money. We really need donations. I'll come back to that in a second. And we'd love to be targeting more than 3 areas. Those are the areas where we're doing these action days, putting boots on the ground, but we're also working with fantastic, bold candidates all over the country to put out incredible comms like that launch video that you've just watched, to boost their campaigns, to boost their profiles, to boost that narrative, that alternative narrative that people need to see fighting Reform. And if you're not sold on the Green Party, well, brilliant. Come work with us from another place on the same thing. If you are coming from the independent political movement right now, but you believe in this brand of politics, come work with us. That's great. What you can do right now, share our launch video and please donate to that crowdfunder. To put boots on the ground, we're going to need some money, to be honest. Please, if you can, donate to that crowdfunder, send it to your mates. If you can, come on 12th of April, but any other day that you can do, we'll make it happen. You go on the website. And if you're interested in joining our campaign team behind the scenes, if you're interested in putting out blinding research reports, infographics, supporting with video making, supporting people getting from A to B, you can join one of our campaign teams, and you can find all the information to do that on our website, greensorganised.uk. And I will try my best to have one-to-one conversations with as many people as possible. So maybe you just want to come and have a whinge at me. Well, you know where to go. I don't think there's that much more to say right this second. Share our video, right, on your socials. Donate to the fundraiser if you can. Go to the website, tell your friends, and come talk to us.
Thanks, Steve, and thanks to everyone for joining this evening. We really hope that tonight has inspired you to take the fight to reform. Like Frank said, it's going to take all our energy, our will, and our passion to tackle the lies and division that are being peddled by the far right. And I do want you to remember, and I know that this has been a discussion in the chat, that the people voting for reform are not the enemy. It's the system that we find ourselves that needs dismantling, that has created a situation where people feel forced into voting for something like reform. Really, what people want is change. What people want is something different. What people want is, like Mottin said, somebody who is going to turn up for them and show up with policies that are people-centered, that are going to change the lives of everyday working people. And that is something that Greens Organised stand for, that the Green Party stands for, and that we all want. We're all working for a better society. We all want to be a part of the change and to be a part of the movement. And that's really what we're starting here. So as Steve said, get involved in any way you can. No level of activity or engagement is too small. If you don't have the means or the energy to get to an action day, liking, sharing and commenting on our socials is just as important. That's how the movement grows. And we really want you to be a part of it. And thanks so much to everyone who's joined us tonight. Thanks so much to everyone who's made this possible and the activists working in the background. It's magic. It really feels like magic. It really feels like something special. So highly recommend getting involved if you need a little energy boost, which I think we all do in the current climate. Come and be a part of Greens Organised, and we'll see you there. Thanks, everyone.